Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. It was a long week filled with emotions. A week we saw the unexpected. We witnessed a rampage and wanton destruction of properties and large-scale broad-day looting and vandalism of private and public properties. Today, federal ministers and some governors in the southwest called at the government house in Lagos, where the governor of the state, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, led them to a tour of assessment of facilities and public properties destroyed over the past days. The Minister of Works and former Lagos Governor Babatunde Fashola spoke after the tour on behalf of the ministers. Take a listen to him.
The extent of the damage that we have seen, the destruction of property, except to say that we are sure that all will be well. For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language. It is our wish that this calm will be a long, enduring one. It is one that we hope will help to bring down temperatures so that we can then stand away and begin what I believe will be an investigation which the federal government is also supporting and which the state has started that would really help us unravel how we got here.
That's Babatunde Fashola, the Minister of Works and Housing, who was also a former governor of Lagos State. A lot happened over the past weeks, and for a lot of Nigerians, the question of where do we go from here perhaps comes up every now and then. Today, a foremost Nigerian Pentecostal pastor and former vice presidential candidate, Tunde Bakare, spoke on his ideas on getting things right after all of these troubles.
I say it again, to those who have ears to hear, it has become clear that an excessively centralized government cannot sustain a culture of responsive leadership and responsible citizenship. As Nigerians begin to exercise the powers of the distinguished office of the citizen, we must demand a government that is close enough to facilitate our welfare and strong enough to provide security. This is why I'm confident that the current wave of people movement and individual responsibility will ultimately lead to the restructuring of our nation.
Pastor Tunde Bakare there. A deep assessment of the events of the past days is also a critical reasoning on how we got here, why, and the way forward for Nigeria. You heard there what Pastor Bakare said. Some of those things that are needed to be done to ensure that the peace we experience might be lasting and enduring. But how do we go about this with the view of what the president and the government of the day are doing in ensuring that things are gotten right? So tonight, let's take a look at how things, the approach of this government, and going forward, what are those critical needs that need to be done urgently. I'm being joined by the Minister of Water Resources, Mr. Suleiman Adamu. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for coming tonight on the program. You've heard and seen a lot of reactions of Nigerians to the events of the past days, including the speech of the president. First and foremost, let me get your quick reaction to what Pastor Bakare said there about the issue of restructuring this nation. He said all is pointing at what needs to be done, the restructuring of this country. Is it difficult for the government of the day to make that happen?
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, viewers. First of all, let me join the rest of the country in expressing our condolence and sympathies to those that lost their lives or were maimed by these sad events that happened in the last 1 week. Well, I am not a student of political science, but one thing I know as a political animal is that the citizen of this country is that restructuring means to different people. So I'm not sure that we have even reached a consensus as a country as to what restructuring means. If you ask different people, they have different ideas of what restructuring is all about. But I think, for me, it's really not the problem of our constitution, but it is the problem of how we operate it. We have a constitution that is running this country, that is governing the affairs of this country. And if all and sundry, whether those in government or the governed, have been patriotic enough and honest enough to operate this constitution as it is, providing social justice to all and sundry, I don't think there is a problem. So I am not particularly qualified. Like I said, I'm not a student of political science for me to be able to give a thesis about this restructuring issue.
Minister, if you look at the events of the past days and what we have experienced in the country, the crises here and there, security, be it a security crisis, economic crisis, all are begging for a bigger solution. They are not in themselves an isolated problem. So a lot of people are thought about how we can get out of here. Now we have a major crisis on our hands, and a lot of people are now looking at a bigger picture. For you, as a serving minister under this government, what do you think, perhaps, is this government thinking about that? Are you discussing it in your cabinet meetings on how to, in the bigger picture, resolve the problems of this country?
Well, certainly we are concerned and we are discussing it formally and informally. For me, I think this is a wake-up call for the country. First of all, a lot has happened over the last, even long before the coming of this administration, regarding how the governance of the as a whole. And I think going forward, definitely for all tiers of government, there is going to be a rethink. But I think at federal level, there is nothing we have not done as a government to kind of ensure that we provide this leadership at federal level. You've seen all the reforms that the president has tried to institute, giving local governments autonomy, giving the judiciary their own financial economy, and lots of other reforms that have been taking place. But I think people seem to have been ignoring all the milestones that have been reached. In fact, at a certain point, some of the things that are meant for the good of the country have been challenged by other tiers of government when they are in the best interest of the people. So going forward, I think there will be continuous dialogue. We'll increase our dialogue. There has been, in my view, my personal view over the years has been not only with this government, but over time, there has been some kind of disconnect, especially at state level, between the citizenry and their respective governments. And people tend to forget also that we have 3 tiers of government, and there are certain responsibilities that the states are the ones that need to deal with them. And there are certain responsibilities that the federal government has to deal with. But every time, some things are going wrong, it's the federal government that tends to get the short end of the stick. I'll give you an example. In my own ministry, a lot of people challenge me now and then that there is no water available in the country, in many cities, but they do not seem to understand that the primary responsibility lies with the state government to provide water, and that is why the federal government does not have a water board. Yes, there are reforms that need to be made. Lessons have been learned, and I think a lot is going to happen. But first of all, what is most important to the federal government at this time is for us to have peace, to have tranquility, and definitely questions will be asked So much analysis will be done. Maybe some inquiry, some form of official inquiry will definitely be done. And at the end of the day, I'm sure President Buhari is more than committed to be able to ensure that the necessary steps are taken. Let's not forget that even the NSAS protests, I know as far back as 2018, the president initiated a reform of the police, and SARS in particular, and some recommendations have been made. But we also need to appreciate that sometimes government processes and procedures take a long time because everything has to be done according to the laws and according to regulations. And maybe the reforms took too long, but I think now there is a great cause for us to accelerate whatever reforms we need to do. But I can assure you our government is responsive and will definitely do what it takes to ensure that we restore confidence between the government and the governed, and to ensure that there's peace and prosperity in this country. We're not going to sit down and be licking our wounds on the basis of what happened last week, but we'll take it as a wake-up call and an inspiration to ensure that where mistakes have been made, they are corrected, so that we ensure that the citizenry get the benefits of being governed, of the dividends of democracy. But this is not a responsibility of the federal government alone. It is a responsibility of all the 36 states of the federation as well, and the 774 local government authorities. There's a lot of work we must do, and I'm sure the federal government will provide the leadership for that to happen.
Honorable Minister Adamu, looking at the kind of team that brought this government into power in 2015 before getting re-election in 2019, it was huge, it was popular. But it does look like something dramatic has happened. Looking at the reactions of Nigerians to the president's speech a few days ago, are you worried about the level of connection of the federal government and the Nigerian people over the past days?
I think a lot of people have been unfair to President Muhammadu Buhari. It looks like head or tail, he loses. Whatever he says is misconstrued, or he, analyze and say he didn't say this, or he said this, or he didn't say that. This president is very, very concerned about the citizens of this country. Very, very, very concerned, and all his life, his views, and his political philosophy has been to enhance the welfare of the common person. And I think people tend to have short memory, I'm sorry to say. Sometimes I call it deliberate amnesia. People forget the challenges that this government faced when it came. When we mention it, they say, okay, stop talking about it and tell us what you're going to do. Okay, we've done a lot. We met a complete mess. No savings, no nothing. The president has said it over and over again. First month when the president came into office, oil had dropped from what other governments used to enjoy it at 100 and 140 barrels a day to only $28 a barrel. And then barely 6 months later, we saw the continuous bombardment and explosion of crude oil pipelines, which resulted in us getting only about 500,000 to 600,000 barrels of crude per day, compared to 2.1, 2.3 million barrels that previous governments used to enjoy. So there have been a lot of problems. We inherited, the insurgency. Within a few months, we were able to make a lot of progress in getting them out of Nigerian territory. And then subsequently, this pandemic came. We've had also a lot of cases related to banditry and so on. And there are a lot of problems that this government has inherited. But along the way, we had the economic recovery and growth plan, which brought us out of recession. And we've been working on a new economic strategy and a new vision for the country to take us to the year 2050. A lot of things have been done, but I think those that are not happy or they don't like the face of President Muhammadu Buhari have continued to make rubbish of all these things. But we will remain steadfast. This government will remain steadfast. We believe we're on the right track. Well, we've faced a lot of challenges. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of problems. Our economy was growing before the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is no, we are not, the whole world is not immune to it. We have seen larger economies, far, far larger economies are suffering much more than we've been suffering. But when we are in such a situation of crisis, instead of the whole country to rally around and work together for us to get out of our problems, some people take it as an opportunity to exploit the situation, exploit the crevices and fissures around this country for whatever benefit, I don't know. I don't see how anybody can benefit if this country is on fire.
Honourable Minister, perhaps on the final question before you go, is on the issue of what we have experienced in the past days. There's been a larger scale of insecurity in the country. There's been looting and vandalism of public and private properties. But when you talk about the issue of restructuring, this government your political party, APC, had campaigned that it was going to restructure this country. It was a campaign promise. It wasn't Nigerians who were asking for it. It was your party who said they were going to restructure this country. At some point, the president has said true federalism is necessary for this nation. And so a lot of think tanks have said, come on, we need to restructure this country. It is what is needed. Before you go, with all of these insecurities that we have on our hands, don't you think, on a second thought, and a benefit of hindsight, that restructuring or readjustment of our structure as a country and fixing of our constitution is an urgent matter that needs to be brought to the table?
Well, I have no problem with restructuring, but like I said, restructuring means a lot to many people. Is there a national consensus as to what this restructuring is supposed to look like? That is one. Number two, how do you go into some such? I'm not speaking now for the president, but I'm speaking my mind as a citizen. But how do you go into such major endeavor when you are even trying to stabilize the economy, stabilize the security of the country? Can you do that in a situation of chaos? I don't think it makes sense for us. We have to take first things first. And I think President Buhari is methodical. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has been taking things step by step. And if we get the right atmosphere for that to happen, I will go for it. It's a party manifesto. It's an item on the party manifesto. And I think we will be able to do it. But in my view, in a situation where a country is virtually at war, externally and internally, with the Boko Haram on our borders, with internal banditry and so on and so forth, there is so much to chew. So at what point should the government abandon all these issues simply to address some of these, I wouldn't say agitations, but hopes and aspirations of the rest of the country? In principle, we accept as a government that restructuring will happen. But we need to do it in the right atmosphere. And how can we be talking about restructuring when the corporate existence of the country itself is being threatened? We hear all these things that IPOB is saying. We hear another group in the southwest calling for Oduduwa Republic and so on. We have Boko Haram. We have this and that. I think we need to stabilize the country for us to be able to sit down and think sensibly and do the right thing. Otherwise, if we're going to do this in a situation of crisis or in a situation of emotions or on impulse, we may probably not get it right. So I believe President Buhari is on course. He's doing what he needs to do, and he's methodical about it. And I believe at the right moment we'll get there. I hope that this crisis has come to an end. It will abate and run its course so that we can sit down as a nation, and then, first of all, heal wounds, restore, the security situation in the country, restore normalcy, and then we can be able to talk about these things. But I don't think in this kinds of situation that this is what we should be talking about at the moment, honestly.
Honourable Minister for Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, thank you indeed for your time tonight on the program.
Thank you very much.
So, You've heard from the side of the government, the plan of this government in the midst of all of these crises. We will widen the conversation. I have a panel of experience in politics and governance, security, to analyze some of the issues that we have faced in the past day. But we'll take a break, and when we come back, analysis of the assessment and the destruction of property across the country. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.